up with how it affects our daily lives. So how we propose to define this topic today as a government is that we believe, based on all the research that's been done, especially when it comes to research regarding adoption and also research regarding twin studies, is that yes, although environment can play an important role in shaping a people's behavior, but eventually it will be their genes, their DNA, that will ultimately determine what kind of person they are. So what we're saying today is that if you look at the type of problems that we have now, in terms of perhaps education, we find that the reason why a lot of people are not very happy nowadays, especially school children, is because they are forced to become what they are not. What we are saying today is basically this. Now, if I'm born to be someone who is good in sports, but at the end of the day, if I'm forced to study things that I'm not supposed to be studying, at the end of the day, I will not be who I am supposed to be. See, what education nowadays tries to do is they try to use the environment to shape someone, to force somebody to become what their nature doesn't allow them to be. So what we're proposing as a government today is that education in Malaysia should not be based on this idea that we are able to change people's behavior because of a change to their nature by putting them in certain environment and forcing them to become what they are not. So what basically we're proposing here is that schools should not be based on this idea that everyone is meant to be an academician, that everyone is meant to know maths, science, and all those things that some of us don't feel that it's necessary for us to study on, but that schools should be based on your natural ability. So what I'm proposing today is that schools have to be based on this idea that if I'm born to be a sportsman, I do not have to study maths and science anymore. Or at least not maths and science has nothing to relate to sports. Yes?
So sir, are you trying to suggest that we should only be developing one particular type of intelligence as opposed to multiple intelligence, like how you taught us last time?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you should develop everyone's intelligence as what their intelligence is. Because what happens nowadays is that, look, whether or not I'm meant to study maths, or whether I'm good in maths or science, I'm forced to study it. So as a result, a lot of people feel that, I'm not meant for this. I don't have a scientist DNA. I have a sportsman DNA. But why are you forcing me to become what I'm not? And as a result of that, you notice that some students who are supposedly good in something ends up going to school feeling that I'm dumb. But dumb by what standard? But dumb by the standard that society places on them because they believe that I can change the environment to force everyone to be good in science, for everyone to be good in maths. And I think this is really, really an injustice.
What do you say about research which has shown that learning by one method of learning is ineffective and rather a combination of various methods of learning is more effective?
Yeah, I mean, it's true that certain methods of learning is important in order to develop something else. But you see, the issue here is not the style of learning. Now, if I am a fish, right, you can teach me all sorts of ways, use whatever learning method for me to actually start running. I cannot because I'm just not made that way. Right? So the idea here is not so much of what learning styles is the best for someone, but if I don't have legs, no matter how much you teach me, I cannot run. Right? So this is what we're actually proposing today, that at the end of the day, our education system should not be based on this general ability or general idea that everybody could be the same. Therefore, what we are proposing, which my second speaker will be talking about, is this idea of how we should actually recognize people's multiple intelligences and make them become who they are right at the beginning, instead of putting everyone in this pigeonhole and expect everybody to be developed into a certain person irrespective of whether their DNA allows it or not. So hence, what the government is proposing today is that we do away with this idea that everybody should fit into a certain pigeonhole, but to make sure that everybody develops according to what their DNA allows them, because at the end of the day, nature rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alex. Now we would like to call upon the first speaker from the opposition team. A gentle reminder, say POI when you raise your hand because the speaker might not be looking at you. Okay? Okay.
Good afternoon, my esteemed lecturers and my beloved fellow students. What Mr. Alex mentioned about education stuff, but education itself is a form of nurturing, so it does not undermine the impact and the importance of nurture in even growing to further build on our ability to grow as people. The reason why we are here, the reason why most of us want to study psychology is because we believe that people can change, that if we believe that we are so deterministic as our nature dictates, then why bother helping people? Oh, she or he has depression. He or she forever will be depressed. But it's because we believe that there is an indomitable spirit in each and every one of us to overcome our circumstances, to overcome what our genes has predisposed us to. Yes, 30 seconds.
Okay, let's not. I believe you're trying to conflate learning and nature into one. See, the idea here being, you said that if nurture is important, we can change who we are. I want to point out that nurture simply allows us to move to the next level in the game we are on. Nature decides what game you're actually on, and you cannot change what game that you're on.
And I like to come back at you with the analogy of a seed and a plant. Even if you have a seed, right, but without the environment, without nurture, without soil, without fertilizer, without rain and air and everything else, it will not develop into a plant. And all you will have is a seed, Victor, a seed. We are here because we believe that we are more than just our innate biological drive to search for hunger, food, and reproduction. We're here to achieve self-actualization because we believe that we can be more, that we have dreams and ambitions. We don't have to be restrained by our genetic, evolutionary...
Carry on. Sorry. Sincerely, we apologize.
We are so... Okay, my point was that we are motivated by so much more than just our innate so-called evolutionary biological purposes for living, right? Look at us. We have art, we have music, we have things that go so far beyond just that innate drive to live and to survive. We are here because we want to help. We are at Help University because we believe in pro-social behavior. Not just as a means of ensuring the survival of our species, but because we genuinely believe that it is noble to be selfless. It is noble to put the lives of others ahead of us. And that is not biologically innate. Biology inclines us to be selfish, to want to live our lives for ourselves.
On that point, then isn't it selfish to force somebody to become what you expect them to be without considering what they should become?
I think that's the problem of our education system, but not so much of nurture. Because you're confining to the education system, so that's the problem of the education system, lah. If we talk about genes, and we talk about epigenetics, right? So it has shown that even at the prenatal stage, your genes can be influenced. So there was this for example, they've done lab experiments. So there's this rat, right? So they have these genes that they will become yellow and obese. Yeah. So I can't remember the name of the genes, but yeah, that all their children become yellow and obese, but they managed to alter the prenatal environment so much so to suppress the genes, and hence they didn't become yellow and obese. So even on the prenatal stage, we can does that mean time's up? Okay.
Calm down.
Okay. So even things like talent, right? So even though you even things like talent, right? Have you heard of perfect pitch? So some people, they have the inclination to be able to identify that key, right? And it's just genetic, but research has shown that this is only made possible only through through extensive training. Like so even you have the ability to like sing really well, but if you don't develop it, if you don't do anything with it, you don't train, you don't go for vocal practices. I mean, there's only so far you can go lah. And so nurture is, that's why we're here. We believe that people can grow and change. So even highly genetic diseases like autism, we believe that. I mean, that's why we have schools for them. We believe that they can adapt. That our mind is so neuroplastic that that we can change. I mean, there is always that opportunity. We always have that hope for growth and change as people. And so like hope in. Okay.
Thank you, Natalie. Now, we would like to invite the second speaker of the government. Don't worry if your job is small or your rewards are few. Remember that the mighty oak was once a nut like you. Regardless of whether you like the nuts or not, really, we don't have to have schools for nuts to grow. That is the nature that is defined by a nut. Regardless of what kind of nut you, the government or the opposition are, we will all one day grow into oak trees that we are defined. But you see, an oak tree, that is a tree from the nut, cannot really grow into a fir tree or a banana tree or some other tree like that, as much as we may want bananas more than oaks. So then the point that the government is trying to make is that in education systems, we try to take these lovely nuts, which are one type of nut, and we try to make them all the same. We look at education as one kind. We teach certain subjects, and we expect everyone to have that same kind of of performance. And God help you if you don't have that performance. The indomitable spirit that our worthy opponents were talking about is crushed in where? Standard 1, pre-standard 1. Why? Because in standard 1, all these excited 7-year-olds and 6-year-olds go to school to study, and then they go and stream. You go for exams, these amazing exams built of English, Malay, Maths, Science, or some, I don't know, a long time studying standard 1, what they learn standard 1, I don't know. Okay, all these standard 1 subjects, okay? And then they go for these standard 1 subjects, and then they're told, you didn't do very well in this exam. You didn't do very well in this studies. So what happens? In standard 1, you are put from one, whatever class you got, to the not so good class. 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E. You put kids in 1E because, they didn't fit into that model of the education system. And this is the problem with the education system. We don't have an education system in Malaysia that looks at the nature of the individuals. Rather, we have an education system in Malaysia that wants to make good workers. Not good entrepreneurs, not good sports people, not creative people by any means, not independent people by any means. Because we can't have independence in this country because, yes, go ahead.
But we're not saying, but you are still talking about nurture. You're talking about the education environment, that whether this that enables this nut to be able to grow into an oak tree or not. So we are completely agree with you. You're on your side in saying that yes, it is the environment. So if they have better environments, then they can become oak
Actually,
trees.
you don't even have the environment. Just leave them alone. For example of that, if you look at right now, the youngest CEOs in India, a pair of 12-year-old and 14-year-olds. Who have started developing web apps by themselves. Trust me, there's no school that taught them how to develop web apps, okay? It is sometimes the families that do it without school, and school becomes a hindrance because then all families go, the school, they're right, my children are not smart enough. Instead of trusting the family's instincts that certain kids need a different kind of education system. They need a different kind of environment that our schools just don't provide. Because our schools seek to change the nature of children to be more in line with what our wonderful government, our wonderful people, our wonderful adults try to tell them to be, and not to forget our wonderful teachers and lecturers who all want you all to make our marking easier and do what we want you all to do in exams. Okay, so those kinds of things actually occur in exams. So our main point is around this idea of allowing, the nature of kids to be developed, rather than trying to turn them into something they are not through an education system that is, basically based on creating photostats of research assistants, not creating researchers themselves, not creating innovators themselves, not doing things which are more for the development of the individual themselves. Tell me, in the education systems, what kind of skills are developed other than those, in Malaysian education system especially, other than those of math, science, English, not even your speaking skills, for God's sakes. With due respect to these here who actually can speak, with some of y'all who can't. Okay? Oh no, I'm insulting the audience, oh my God. See, that's my nature, and by rules of debate, this would not be correct. Neither would this when we are speaking. But that's the nature of people that makes it exciting. But if you follow rules of debate, cannot. So the rules, when the rules come in, they spoil the natural enjoyment of people. You have to follow certain rules. You have to wear shoes. We don't have to. Okay, with that. Thank you, second speaker from the government. Now the second speaker from the opposition.
I've never debated in my life. Okay? Never in my life.
It's not your nature, right?
No! It can't be my nurture because you guys are giving me the environment to debate. That is nurture itself. And by the way, Doctor, 30 seconds, go on. Dr. Lee, your analogy of the great oak and the nut, that's not quite flawed because we aren't trees, We can be other people. I can be a lawyer and a psychologist at the same time. Can an oak tree be an oak tree and a banana tree? No. But we can, right? Roughly. Oh, come on, we know. Not the point. And by the way, when you want to ask, right, whether a child has potential or something, right, and then you say, only the child knows its own potential, but that's confirmation bias. You see, confirmation bias means that we have to falsify we have to falsify theories that, we don't try to confirm a theory by confirming what we really know. We try to find flaws in our plans. And in children, we want to find, places that they might not even learn. Let's say if a child doesn't, how do you know a child does not do mathematics well? Of course, through assessments and all. But how do you know? Please, 30
allowing
seconds.
them to fail. That's how we know they don't do well.
I see. Of course, that is the job of lecturers. Again, nurture wins. Because lecturers allowing...
It's a more serious See, you were mentioning that when you send a child through a battery of assessment test, then you find out whether they're good at math, they're good at swimming, they're good at sports, they're good at sewing, anything like that whatsoever. But don't you realize that by doing that, you're actually resetting our point? The point being here that nature has a more influence on an individual than nurture does. What you're doing is you're using nurture to bring forward the natural tendencies and abilities of the child itself. Hence, by putting nurture subservient to nature, isn't it? That's the whole point of the text.
But how can a seed be a tree without its catalyst, that is education? So, also, in... I have a lot of time, right? Continue. So, again, if a child has to know its own potential, how does the child know? Does the child immediately know, I'm going to do psychology? Not everyone. I believe most of you guys don't enter psychology by knowing psychology, isn't it? Most of you might have known, might have enjoyed biopsychology because of Mr. Alex. Might have enjoyed philosophy because of Dr. A. Might have enjoyed just arguing because of Victor. You see? We need role models, and that in a sense, in education, we need educators. The children still need to go through this education system because they need to know by someone who has way more experience to tell them, you have potential in mathematics. Thank you. I can say more if I want. Really? You sure?
Yes.
One more minute.
Just trash us. Just trash us.
But,
It's okay, your Your grades are safe. Your grades
Of course, my grades are safe, right? Lecturers. Because lecturers want to nurture children, nurture students like us to be excellent individuals. Isn't that right, educators? Yes, right? You better say it's yes or no.
Yeah, it's just karma.
But still, we turn out to be excellent individuals. Wouldn't you agree, Dr. A?
Not so bad to me.
Mr. Alex would agree. Alright, I think that's really about it. I really need that for this, but thank you.
Thank you to the second speaker of the opposition. Okay, before the third speakers come out, and I know that y'all are really good.
Afternoon, the house, okay, to my esteemed opponents. I want to start off by saying that I agree with everything you actually said.
Exactly.
Because everything you actually said actually just put nurture subservient to nature, which is why I actually agree with everything you just said. Okay, I'm going to start off by I promised myself I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, I'm going to start with a quote, okay. Matthew Kelly, Rhythm of Life. He says, this quote is normally, people always say Einstein said it, but actually Matthew Kelly said it. Okay, everybody's a genius, like Mr. Alex said. Everyone's a genius, but if you judge a genius's ability by, a fish ability by its ability to climb the tree, it's not going to be a genius, it's going to be a stupid fish. Okay? The question, but the thing is, the question that is always left out is Matthew Kelly actually asked this question that, what kind of genius are you? The question itself, the proposition of the question itself already states that, first and foremost, we are subservient to nature. Like I said, no matter how well you train a fish, no matter how well your nurturance is for the fish, it's never going to learn Taekwondo. It has no legs. Okay, so I'm not even going to say any points here. I'm just going to bring up the points that you were actually saying about nurture. Okay, Natalie, you brought a very, very good point up saying, nurture allows us to reach self-actualization. I want to point out to you that self-actualization as a concept, your psychology students here, okay, as a concept in psychology, it's actually brand new. The idea of self-actualization only came about in the 20th century onwards, or to the 21st century, 19 or something, the Freud era where they were all messed up. Okay, but the idea of this self-actualization is actually brand new. Why? Because according to the study of Professor Dan Gilbert, he actually did a study on brain structures and everything. What he found was that the frontal lobe of the human brain actually developed over 2 million years. And over 2 million years of development of the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe's only function is to determine what comes next. This is why humans suck at long-term planning. This is why I'm broke, okay, I'm just speaking. This is why we suck at long-term planning. Okay, everything is about nature, it's about what keeps us alive, what makes us happy, what makes us do the things we want to do in life. Self-actualization as a concept is what we teach in psychology. We hope that people can achieve it. But underneath self-actualization, the engine that drives humanity itself is nurture, the need for the next thing. Yes?
But can we deny a theory just because it's modern, just because its arrival is
no, don't get me wrong, I'm not denying the theory. Okay, correct. I'm not denying the theory exists. The theory is psychologically valid. What I'm simply saying is this. The theory is subservient to 2 million years of development of the frontal lobe, primarily to nature. The reason why we can even ask questions of self-actualization and self-worth is because nature has brought us to a point where these questions are now important. Those questions didn't used to be important. They used to simply be a wild dream. All you're going to do is eat, sleep, have sex, poop, die. That's it. 5 stages of life. Okay, that's Victor's 5 stages of life. So once again, I come back to the point that yes, we completely agree. We cannot do without nurture. Nobody is trying to say that. But remember the topic of the debate. The topic of the debate is nature has more influence than nurture does. And in this case, I believe our case is quite strongly put out already. Nature really does have a more strong influence than anything nurture can do. Can we do without nurture? No, we can't. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I'll be somewhere else, probably picking stones, okay? But like I said, if I didn't have a brain, or I didn't have an aptitude for psychology, again, I wouldn't be here. No matter what my teachers did to me, I wouldn't be here. Okay, so, how much time do I have left?
1 minute and 30 seconds.
I'm gonna go sing a song right now. I have 1 minute.
I don't know, chicken dance.
Chicken dance. See, the reason why I don't do the chicken dance is because I'll be embarrassed. Which again, nature. Okay, embarrassment. I don't want to embarrass myself in front of you people. Okay, actually I already have lah. Okay, I think.
What you mentioned about embarrassment just now. Embarrassment is a secondary emotion.
What the heck?
Yeah, but I mean like, we have only found 6 basic emotions, and embarrassment is something that we are socialized to have.
I would like to counter you on that. Embarrassment being a compound emotion. Compound emotion being basically meaning it's six is defined from either one or more of the 6 basic emotions, which are actually not socialized. Just because it's a compound emotion doesn't mean you are taught to feel embarrassed. Embarrassment can come naturally. Ooh. Serious? That's yes. I think I'm done. Cheers. Okay, bye.
Let's follow your nature.
Thank you.
Oh, their nature. That's why they do.
Now let's invite the third speaker from the opposition.
Yeah, actually remember the important.
I hope everyone is familiar with Helen Keller. A woman who faced the adversity of nature due to a fever, and she lost the ability to see, to hear, and to speak. If she were to give in the circumstances thinking that I am a disabled person, she wouldn't have become renowned as she is right now. That is a major influence of nurture over there, which helped the person overcome the barriers put forth by nature. Hence, we would like to propose that nurture rules and nature starts. Okay, basically speaking. Alright, the first speaker, Mr. Alex, gave us points. Actually, the entire argument was on the basis of education and how nature should be the way, and we should use nature to shape up our education system. But, however, education itself is a process of nurturing. Education itself is a process where you put water, you put fertilizer, like what Natalie said, in order to develop this plant. And at the same time, they are talking about genetic predisposition. We all know that without even with genetic predisposition, you need an environmental trigger in order for this particular trait to be activated. So without this environmental trigger, this gene could just go to sleep. Otherwise, it's not going to be utilized, or it's not going to be serving its purpose in the first place. It needs a trigger. Where does the trigger come from? Environment. What is environment? Nurture. So that's why we are saying that nurture is the way to go. Denied, sorry. Also, there is no, sorry Victor. Okay, even with DNA, but with no motivation, that's like the oak tree which has been burned. You know, it serves no purpose over there. Because even though, yes, DNA exists, but you need to activate these genes. Without this activation, these genes can never function optimally in the first place, to be speaking. And also the second point about we being nuts. We aren't nuts. And the third speaker came and said we are fish. Come on, we are people. That is why we have a food scientist who's a clinical psychologist. Hold on first. That's why we have a food scientist who's a clinical psychologist right here with us. That's why we have a business graduate who's a grief counselor right now. Are you trying to say that you were born a grief counselor? No! This has a lot of complete nurture. If we were to lose out with nature's order, we would have lost Mr. Alex to a peanut butter factory. Come on. It does not make sense to say that it's all nature. Yes.
You understand the meaning of the word metaphor, number one. And number two, I really sucked at business. There was nothing that nurture could teach me to make me a good business.
I suck at peanut
My
butter.
nature.
Chill, bro. You came in the wrong time. And also, the notion that emotions themselves are also nature. We have to bear in mind that even though we have this genetic predisposition to certain emotions, your amygdala still needs to be stimulated. Otherwise, you don't emote in the first place. Hold on, Mika. Okay? You can't emote for that. You can't just be angry, just you're angry. You have to be triggered. Someone has to slap your face. Someone has to do something. Someone has to do something like that to trigger your emotions in the first place. Yes, Victor.
Okay. But 2 points. You said that sometimes we need environment to actually trigger something. I want to point out that one environment can also be a part of nature. It's not solely nurture. Okay, what happens to you naturally is also a part of the environment. Number one. Number two, gene activation is very, very debatable. The point that you put forward is saying that we all have genes that can be activated, and then suddenly we're a genius or suddenly we're Iron Man. It doesn't work that way. Gene activation, yes, can be activated by certain things. For example, like some people have a gene for schizophrenia, which can be activated by an extreme amount of stress, for example. But not necessarily the case. Let's say Down syndrome, for example, there's no environmental gene activation for that. See, so you can't say that it's subservient to nurture. Gene activation must have nurture. That's not true.
Thank you. All right. Okay. giving into that power with gene activation, okay, even if you do not want to take the argument that it's gene activation, we still need to accept the fact that you have to be trained to be good at something in the first place, and that is school. That is where you get your education, where it nurtures. If you were not taught maths at all, no matter even if you hate maths, you need maths. You need to be nurtured. You may not feel that it's your genetic predisposition to be a mathematician, but you need this knowledge. So the current education system is giving you all you need. It's up to you what you're going to be choosing, and it's totally up to you on what you want to do after that. Otherwise, we would not be seeing Victor or Mr. Alex or anyone here right now if they were to give in to some other kind of, the education system per se in the first place. And then, to strengthen our case on the side of nurture, okay, there are certain principles that you guys know, for example, like addiction, nurture, aggression, nurture. And by aggression, under nurture, I'm saying about Bandura's experiment. Language, you get it by imitation. All this is through nurture, not 100% nature. Nature could be there, but if you're not nurtured to, inculcate certain behavior, you don't get it. So on that point, we from side opposition would like to propose that it is nature that is more influential than nurture that is more influential than nature. Thank you.
Now we would like to.
They first. They reply first. The government closes.
Now we would like.
Yeah, they can do it together.
You can do it together. You can do it together. Sure. You can sit down and.
2 minutes for reply.
Prepare replies.
Prepare replies. I wanted the debate against Tim and Tim.
I don't want to debate against her. Ad hominem attack against me, I don't want.
You can do that later.
Hey, you actually recorded 6 lakhs people died.
The opposition speakers for the reply speech. 3 minutes.
I tried to we should have done that on our side.
Again, first, for the sake of simplicity and for education, let's use an analogy. Again, how can seeds become trees without environmental conditions like the sun, the rain, the weather? Whether people will destroy it or not. Even earthquakes can be, affecting the tree. We all know that. So, Natalie.
Thank you, Joshua. Yeah, for reiterating that very powerful analogy. And also, yeah, so I'd like to remark what Victor said about how our brain has developed to self-actualize. But even that adaptation is the result of environment. Because of the environment, they have to adapt to have this capacity to self-actualize. Give me that, please. And and he also mentioned about people with Down syndrome, there's very little that can be done, but that's not true. Ask the early childhood education people, they have programs for them to be able to adapt to society, to be able to grow to, and we do know how even people who are blind, they adapt in different ways, neuroplasticity. We are constantly adapting because of nurture. We don't have to let our genetic disabilities forever paralyze us and disable us from doing things.
Okay. Alright, okay. In terms of strengthening our case, once again, we like to say that potential development is also under nurture. So if you have the potential, you have the gene or whatever that you have, if it isn't nurtured, there is no way that it could be improved or it could be developed. So we would like to say that education itself is a nurturing process which develops the potential of an individual. Without it, we are, again, trees and fishes. Thank you.
The fact that we are here, you see, we're quite amateur debaters, but we're here and experience. We believe that experience can train us to be better debaters and grow and be overcome even our initial state of okay. And that we are here because we believe that we can train, that we can grow, that people are not just constricted by their genes. Right, yeah. And there's been a lot of studies to show as they are that brings me here to want to experience this. Yeah, so it's nurturing, so looking at them as role models, as educators to support us and facilitate our learning. Yeah, so thank you.
Well done, well done. Feedback, well done.
Very well done. Thank you so much. Now we'd like to invite Mr. Alex for the reply speech of the government.
Alright, so let's look at today's debate and let's do an analysis. See, I think as much as they are really, really good at what they're doing, but I think they still miss the main point that we're trying to convey in today's debate. See, we're not against school, we're not against nurturing, we're not against the idea that you need to actually nurture somebody in order for them to achieve their full potential. That's fine with us. Because at the end of the day, our main argument is basically this. Everyone is born with a certain nature as to what they will become or they should become when they grow up. What we're saying is that in every gene, in every baby, it's not exactly like a blank slate that you can make them do anything. We know genes are strong, and there are research that shows that even adopted twins have been reared apart with two very different environments. At the end of the day, still shares a lot of similarities. So because of this, what basically we're saying today is that schools should not force people to become what they are not. You see, what the opposition mentioned, that it should be up to the students to do what they want. But the problem is, it is not up to the students to do what they want. In fact, society has already made them or suggests that everyone should be good in math, science, English, Malay, geography, and history in order to be called successful in life. And we say this is against nature. Because nature doesn't dictate that everyone should be good in geography. Nature do not dictate that everybody should be good in maths or science. So because of this, what we're simply proposing is let students choose what they really want to do based on their ability, which is their nature. So at the end of the day, they came up with 2 points, the opposition. The first thing that they say is that at the end of the day, learning is important, right? We should accommodate the learning styles in order to make someone become something. But at the end of the day, the issue is not about learning, like we say. Well, people with a certain predisposition to be good in science still have to learn science. We have no issue with the idea. The second point that they actually brought up is how do we know whether someone is good in something or not before we decide what they should become? Now, of course, we are saying that you still need to do some testing. But what we're really saying is, after you test and you realize that this kid is not capable of doing maths, why do you force him to go through maths class for the entire 12 years? Right? So at the end of the day, a lot of our points on this side still stands because they have not actually dealt with this sufficiently. Why? Because they got the wrong message. They still did not actually meet us on our grounds when we say what we want is just allowing students to choose what they are basically good at. Right? But at the end of the day, what we are saying is that in spite of their ability, the environment that they are still quite good debaters because it's something which is already in them, and hence we say that our motion stands.
Thank you, Mr. Alex. Now we'll have a 5-minute break while the judges deliberate. Toilet breaks.
So in terms of grading, there isn't much of a difference. Okay, we made an unanimous decision, but there isn't much of a difference between the groups. Okay, but we need to say that there were strengths and weaknesses for both teams. Okay, so the students' team or the opposition team had more scores in terms of content. Okay, the content was better, okay, than the lecturers' team. Okay, the lecturers' team, they were a lot better in terms of the style. And in debates, we know that generally, styles matters more. The arguments matters more. The way you present your arguments matter more than the content. But in making the decision, because we just need to have one winner, okay, we justify this decision by saying that because we are an academic institution, we want to encourage scholarship. We want to encourage speakers with content. Okay, not only you are good in speaking, but you are good with knowledge. Okay, so we are announcing the opposition team as the winner.
You don't see this in real life, government giving stuff to opposition.